the Green New Deal quite consciously keeps within the framework. I mean, I'm talking about the careful proposals for a Green New Deal. There's all kind of proposals around. But ones like, say, Pollan and Sachs keep explicitly within the framework of capitalist institutions. I don't think the architects of this system necessarily believe that those are the best institutions. In fact, I know that they don't. But if you look at timescales, the timescale necessary to overcome the urgent crisis that we're facing is far shorter than the timescale necessary to change institutions. It doesn't mean one or the other. You can be working in the background to create the consciousness, the elements of a future society within the present one. But we have an urgent need, actually an even more urgent need. We have to get rid of the malignancy in the White House. If that's not done, all of this is moot, all of it, because we'll be driving to disaster. But assuming that that cancer can be excised in November, which is by no means certain, then the next urgent task, it's actually two, is to deal decisively with the economic, with the environmental crisis. We have the tools to do this. Get rid of nuclear weapons, which are an immense threat. Get prepared for the next pandemic, which we can do. Reverse the deterioration of democracy. And then beyond that, look into the nature of institutions. I mentioned the Republican Party of Abraham Lincoln. Basically, he was taking the stand of classical liberalism, one which actually goes back to classical Greece and Rome, Cicero and others. The idea that one person should be dependent on the orders of another is intolerable, except in, say, extreme conditions, like a 3-year-old child is dependent on the decisions of the parent. But for society to be organized on the principle that you spend almost all your waking hours under the rules of a tyrant with total control over you, way beyond what Stalin dreamed of. Stalin didn't say you can take a bathroom break at 3 o'clock, or you have to wear these clothes and go from this spot to another spot in the Amazon warehouse or whatever. The idea that most of your waking hours are spent that way, I think, is intolerable. And that can be overcome pretty much the way the Knights of Labor were talking about it. Those who work in the mills should own them. Enterprises should be in the hands of participants, workers, community. We can have much more rich democratic systems without systems of what are, in my view, totally illegitimate authority. Okay, it's not unfeasible. In fact, you could even call it capitalism if you want. Call it whatever you like, but it's a very different system. And I think those moves in that direction are appropriate, necessary over the longer term. Meanwhile, we have immediate crises that must be overcome, or else none of these discussions mean anything. It's not stupidity. I mean, Milton Friedman was a very intelligent person. I'm not competent to judge, but competent economist. He was a very good economist. It was not stupidity when he said the role of the private sector is solely self-enrichment. That's ideology, not stupidity. I mean, I happen to think it's a stupid conclusion, but he wasn't making that on the basis of stupidity or incompetence. The case of Bolsonaro, let me not judge, but I think we might notice the fact that the 3 countries that are pretty much in the lead in moving towards autocracy and destruction of democracy also happen to be in the lead in number of deaths and cases of the virus. The United States, India, Brazil. The next one in line is Russia, also not exactly a model of democracy. Is this an accident? Well, you can decide. I don't think so. I think that's inherent in autocratic control and demonization and ignoring science because we're smarter, we're better than anyone else. We just run things. It's typical in Brazil, typical here, dramatic. Same in India, killing the intellectual sectors. I think these things are related, but I don't think they're stupidity. They answer to specific power needs and in some cases personal needs, but mostly fundamental power. Trump would not remain in office if he did not understand that his prime duty is to enrich the very rich and the private sector. He can talk all he likes to white collar workers, to working blue collar workers. It's about how much he loves them. But at the same time, he's stabbing them in the back. Every legislative proposal, whether it's a tax scam for the rich or cutting back safety and health regulations, is stabbing working people and the lower middle class in the back. Same with Bolsonaro, same with Modi. Kind of an interesting phenomenon. They keep popularity, but that's a different matter. Dictators and demagogues often do, not because they're helping people. But these are very, I think you're raising very serious issues. I mean, and in different countries they have different roots, different characteristics, and so on. But there are some common features. I think one common feature is the neoliberal assault of the last 40 years. It's had different effects in different places, but similar ones. And it has led to this atmosphere of anger, contempt for institutions, resentment, search for some leader, maximal leader who will save us from all of this and blame somebody. So in India, you can blame the Muslims. In the United States, you can blame the immigrants, the World Health Organization.
Yes, ma'am.
Somewhere else, you can blame the Kurdish immigrants, whatever it is. But blame somebody, not the sources that are responsible. That's the nature of demagogic leadership, not for the first time in history. Plenty of examples.